60 years in AP.
We are not able to see Dr. Maya. He's another old person from Karnataka.
Yeah, he may join, sir, little difficulties.
Yes, yes. No, we are fortunate. If by this we can see them.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to see Singhal in Delhi also.
Yeah, no, don't worry, sir. We'll be there to receive you.
Yeah, it's 7, sir. We'll start. A very good evening to one and all. I heartily welcome all the members of API, ICP Karnataka and other members of various organizations who have joined virtually from all over the country to attend this program on World No Tobacco Day. On this occasion, I welcome Dr. P.S. Shankar, Professor Emeritus RGUHS and KBN University Gulbarga, Dr. Muruganathan, past Governor ACP India Chapter, the past Dean ICP, the past President of API and currently the Director PRF. I also welcome our own committee members, our patron Dr. Maya API, Dr. Murali Mohan, Chairman API, Karnataka, Dr. Vishwanath, Secretary, Dr. Ravi Kirti, and Dr. Srinivas Murthy, Central API members. I welcome our today's chief guest, Professor Dr. R.K. Singhal, Senior Physician and Dean ICP from Delhi, a great academician taking national API into international levels with many academic activities done under the banner of ICP and API at national and international levels. A great academician, received many fellowships and honors. I also welcome our today's speaker, Professor Dr. Rajkumar, Director of Vallabhbhai Patel Chest Institute, Delhi, a premier research institute, heading pulmonary medicine, heading tobacco cessation clinic in the National Tobacco Quitline Services by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, a great academician and a researcher. As he is held up with the Ministry of Government of India program, we are playing a recording of his message. I also welcome our other speaker, Dr. Venkata L. Narasimha, Assistant Professor, Department of Psychiatry from NIMHANS, with special interest in addiction medicine, a great academician with many publications, both national and internationally, received many awards and fellowships. I also welcome our panelist, Dr. K. Govind Babu, Chief Medical Oncologist from HCG Bangalore, the past chairman of API, a busy academic person with lot of publications and research activities. I also welcome our other panelists, our own faculty, Dr. Suresh, cardiologist from Raichur, a chairman-elect API Karnataka. And I also welcome our other panelists, Professor Dr. D.P. Singh, a senior physician and faculty member of PRF, a great name in National API from Bhagalpur, associated with many organizations, received many awards and fellowships. Let us not waste time by reading their CV profile, which runs in pages. Let us learn and hear from them. As I can see, many have joined from all over the country, making it national event, which COVID-19 pandemic has taught a new normal life to learn. Lastly, I welcome one and all. Now we have a formal virtual inauguration.
Shubham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhanasampada. Shubham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhanasampada. Shatru buddhi vinashaya deepajyotir namostute. Deepajyotir namostute. Shubham kurutvam kalyanam आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपो हरतु मे पापं सन्ध्यादीपनमोऽस्तु ते शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः.
Now we are virtually honoring all the faculty members as well. We are playing a promotional video on World Tobacco Day released by the WHO.
Hey, and livelihoods. Someone else was making bank of all that suffering and misery. Big tobacco. I'm a little heated, and you should be too. Here's the facts. Those sustainability cleanups don't even dent the pollution they cause. We are facing climate catastrophe. And here's Big Tobacco cutting down 600 million trees every year to grow the stuff that'll kill over 8 million people. Never mind the 84 million tons of CO2 emissions created to produce it. Oh, and Big Tobacco helping people, being responsible with how they source and sell their product. Why don't we check in with the farmers they've exploited, the minority groups they've targeted, the kids they're marketing to? Yeah, they're pushing this stuff to kids. You've heard of e-cigarettes, nicotine pouches. We won't let them win. So you can leave this where it is, or you can step in, stand up, use your voice, and say no to Big Tobacco.
Now I request Dr. P.S. Shankar for your introductory remarks.
Dear friends and colleagues, we have assembled here today to celebrate the World No Tobacco Day. I am happy to welcome my friends Dr. Singhal and Professor Rajkumar and the faculty and the API ICP office bearers. Dr. Rajkumar is heading Patel Chest Institute, where I had my training in the chest more than 6 decades ago when Professor Vishwanathan was the director. World No Tobacco Day on 31st May 2024 is driven this year by the theme Protecting Children from Tobacco Industry Interference. This theme of the World No Tobacco Day 2024 is focused on advocating for an end to the targeting of youth with harmful tobacco products. The focus is on mobilizing international efforts to enact stronger regulations. The member states of the World Health Organization created World No Tobacco Day in 1987 to draw global attention to the tobacco epidemic and the preventable death and the diseases it causes. You will wonder if I say tobacco was introduced in our country from our state. Portuguese brought the tobacco to India to court of King Adil Shah of Bijapur. Then it traveled to north to Mughal kingdom to Akbar in 1604 AD. The court persons enjoyed the tobacco smoke and soon it became a habit. Its use became widespread by 1617, even among the common people there. But Jahangir prohibited the use of tobacco. He had to issue a decree forbidding the smoking of tobacco to protect the health of the people and control the habit. In our own times, New Zealand had prohibited the use of tobacco in their country, and only recently it revoked due to the popular demand. It is really a retrograde step. The tobacco epidemic is one of the biggest public health threats the world has ever faced, killing over 8 million people a year around the world. More than 7 million of these deaths are the result of direct tobacco use, while around 1.3 million are the result of non-smokers being exposed to the second-hand smoke. For centuries, it has remained a popular personal and social habit, and it tops the list of the causes of death and disability. Evidence against tobacco is so overwhelming that nobody debates about the hazards of the tobacco anymore. All forms of tobacco use are harmful, and there is no stress level of the exposure to tobacco. Cigarette smoking is the most common form of tobacco use worldwide. Other tobacco products include water pipe tobacco, cigars, heated tobacco, roll your own tobacco, pipe tobacco, bidis, hookah, cigar, cheroot, smokeless tobacco, and e-tobacco products. And there is also chewing form of tobacco and passive smokers among non-smokers. Around 80% of the 1.3 billion tobacco users worldwide live in the low and middle income countries, where the burden of tobacco-related illness and the death is heaviest. Tobacco use contributes to poverty by diverting household spending from the basic needs such as food and shelter to tobacco. This spending behavior is difficult to curb because tobacco is so addictive. Hazards of smoking include cardiovascular disease, pulmonary disease, malignancy, reproductive disorders, and others. The economic costs of tobacco use are substantial and include significant healthcare costs for treating the diseases caused by the tobacco use, as well as the lost human capital that results from tobacco attributable morbidity and mortality. Motto of healthy lifestyle is not to start smoking and to quit if you have made a mistake in the past. Benefits of quitting smoking are a reduced risk of diseases, reduced risk of death, improved immune system, reduced surgical complications, and other pursue them more sophisticated. Thomas Sydenham has said, acute disease is an act of God. For chronic diseases, the patient himself is the author. It is a challenge. There are enough reasons to quit smoking for your own and your family's interest, for a healthy and long life determination, and a decision to quit and setting the goals to stop abruptly or quit gradually and reduce, but not quit or not change their smoking. Setting a goal is ambitious, but achieving the goal is a challenge. We have assembled here to hear the overview of the tobacco hazard and about the year's theme, followed by a panel discussion. I am happy to take part in the inaugural function and wish the program all success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sparing your valuable time and your words of wisdom. Now I request Dr. Muruganathan, sir, to say a few words. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sangram. I'm very pleased to meet all of you through this virtual platform. In fact, Sangram always say virtually honoring. He did honor me physically last week. So I thank you, Sangram, for that also. We need people like Murali Mohan who are watching the, our program very regularly and sincerely. And some people like DP Singh, very knowledgeable person, they also should make sure their students and their group also involved. Unless we send a message, people may not come. That's why I was telling Sangram that we'll plan in a bigger way so that at least our program will be very useful. Maybe we are collecting all the videos and give me Sangram. We will pass it on to various groups, the recorded links also, which will be useful. Coming back to No Tobacco Day, it is more important to speak to public. So wherever you have a program, for doctors alone is not enough. We love to talk to the public. And today I wrote a big article like this in regional language. The meaning is you should individually motivate people, the family, because tobacco smoking is not injurious to them also, but the group nearby. And there are three ways of doing it. One is to talk to them kindly. Second, we explain the scientific and then do a counseling. The third one is fine, where you see if you smoke 500 rupees, if you do this, that. So that way, in three methods, the government is trying. But I think we all should play a very important role. Make the family understand the ill effects of smoking. So I think, Sangram, you should also organize one big program for the public, because you have a lot of connection with cine actor and actress. Bring one of them like Sangar Patel. Shankar has also got a lot of connectivity. So bring them all and we talk about the ill effects of smoking, which is a public health point of view, very useful. By seeing and watching our video, if 1% of the people at least change themselves, it's good. They must take a oath on this day that he will not smoke, because we always observe one day. So no smoking day, no tobacco day. Yes, thank you. I will not do anything on 31st May. Tomorrow I'll take. So this is how the days are celebrated. So I think we will celebrate throughout the year, and we must have some, ideas where we should do. And being the Research Foundation Director, I am also planning with DP Singh how we can do in research and make people understand the problem of smoking. I have a small peak flow meter in my table. I ask my patients not to smoke for at least 2 weeks. Before smoking, before quitting smoking, we record the peak flow meter. After 2 weeks, I ask them to do the same thing. They themselves see how improvement is there if they stop smoking. So you'll have to do scientifically also to tell the patients how it is very useful. These are some of the ideas. Of course, talking to the doctors, talking about research, all that is okay. But today I have a lot of inquisitive ideas. Somebody came to me and they showed me an app how to do hand washing, hygiene. They developed an artificial intelligence app for this program. So similarly, for artificial intelligence made some apps also we can do for no smoking campaign. These are some of my ideas. I think there are all stalwarts here. You can take it up and do in a big way. Thank you, Sangram. Once again, congratulations for all the untiring, unwavering effects of bringing the science to all the public. Thank you, Sangram.
Thank
Over
you,
to
sir.
Sangram.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Your words of wisdom are well taken, sir. We will follow all those things. Now I request our chairman, API Karnataka, Dr. Murli Mohan, sir, to say a few words.
I'll be saying a lot more later, but I first want to thank Dr. Sangram Biradar. As soon as I requested him, why don't we have this session on World Tobacco Day, he accepted and promptly got together an excellent faculty. Special thanks, of course, always to Professor Shankar. He's always a fountain of wisdom for us. Dr. Muruganathan, who attends all these programs unfailingly and contributes his words of wisdom. And a very special thanks to our guests of honor, Dr. Singhal, the chief guest, Dr. Rajkumar. I'm sorry we are missing him in person, Dr. DP Singh. And I must give a very personal thanks to Dr. Narasimha. As soon as I asked him, he accepted. Dr. Narasimha, I'm very grateful for that. Of course, my co-panelists, Dr. Govind Babu, immediate past chairman, Dr. Suresh Sagarad, chairman-elect. So we have this unusual situation of having the immediate past, the chairman-elect and the current chairman all participating in this. So without wasting any more time, I will remind you that the theme this year is protecting children from tobacco industry's influence. And we know what a pernicious but very powerful influence the tobacco industry is. I'm sure our chief speakers are going to address this, and we will take this up later in the panel discussion. So I'll stop at this point, hand it back to Professor Biradar with, again, a word of thanks to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our today's chief guest, Professor Dr. R.K. Singhal, Dean ICP, for your inaugural address. Kindly unmute and speak. Kindly unmute, sir. Unmute. Dr. Singhal.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Dear Dr. Muruganathan, Dr. P.A. Shankar sir, and Dr. Sangram brother, Dr. Murli Mohan sir, and dear friends. We all know that we are here on this World No Tobacco Day 2024 to celebrate the WHO Day. We know that the global campaign led by WHO to raise awareness about the dangers of tobacco use and advocate for effective policies to reduce the tobacco consumption. This year's theme, protecting children from tobacco industry interference, underscores the critical need to safeguard younger people from the manipulative tactics of tobacco industry. While the theme highlights youth protection, it is crucial to remember that the devastating health consequences of smoking. Tobacco use remains the leading cause of preventable death worldwide, claiming millions of lives annually, and smoking negatively affects every body system. In modern era and corporate culture, consumption of tobacco is going up specifically in younger generation. As many youngsters don't stay with their family due to their job and follow peer advice as they organize parties frequently, few of them feel it is a status sign and few consume to release tension. As the cigarette reduces while burning itself, you're reducing 4 days every year while burning a cigarette. No smoking. Smoking gives you a pleasure of moment but kills you in the process. This is the message we have to give each and every patient, whether he is a smoker or he knows somebody is smoking. As per survey, we see that the tobacco consumption is there in rural as well as urban population, and we see the children see their parents consume and they follow them. Tobacco consumption directly affects our health society by affecting their lungs, heart, digestive system, and tobacco consumption also affects women. So it is not that they are away from the tobacco misuse. We see that the API Karnataka has organized this program for the welfare of people and wish them the all success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sparing your valuable time. Thank you once again. Now we move on to the scientific session. Dr. Murli Mohan sir will be taking on later on. We are, since Dr. Rajkumar is held up in a ministry meeting, we are playing his recording of the talk. A small message which I had sent for on this tobacco, World Tobacco, No Tobacco Day.
Okay, today I am going to tell about the tobacco cessation, and my objective of presentation is the global burden, the burden of the tobacco use in India, power of addiction, health burden of tobacco, and tobacco cessation. Now if you see the global burden, tobacco kills 100 million people worldwide in 20th century, and it is going to be the leading preventable cause of the death, and it kills up about half of the people who use it. And tobacco could kill 1 billion people during the 21st century unless we act now. And the tobacco consumption increasing in the southeast region among the women, young and the poor. Now the tobacco epidemics has spread like a wildfire, and around in 2030, around 80% of the all tobacco deaths are going to happen in the developing country. Now, if you see, the world tobacco consumption is going to increase because most of the tobacco use is going to be increased in the developing countries. And if you see the developed country, the tobacco use is decreasing. And this slide shows about how many deaths are there because of the cigarette smoking in United States, lung cancer, other causes of the cancer, heart diseases, other CVDs. Now coming to tobacco statistics in India, it is the fourth largest producer of the tobacco and the second world after the China in the cigarette and the bidi production. And about 95 billion cigarettes smoked in India each year. And out of that, 18.4 crores uses tobacco in the form of 4 crores cigarettes, 8 crores bidis, and 6 crores use chewable form of the tobacco. And about 45% of the Indian men and 12% of the women use some form of the tobacco. And tobacco kills 90 people every hour, 2,200 per day, and around 8 lakhs per year. And it is estimated that around 30% of all the deaths will be because of the tobacco products. So tobacco use is a leading cause of the preventable death all over the world. Tobacco is also one of the major causes of the death and disease in India, accounting for almost 1 million deaths every year. Now coming to how the tobacco came in our country, in 1566, Portuguese sailor entered India through Goa, offered Emperor Akbar the tobacco smoke, but Akbar Royal Hakim told that it should be passed through the water, and in this way the hookah invention was there, and the use of the tobacco spread like a wildfire, and nothing could be done at that time, and his son Jahangir basically came to know. And
yeah, this was a message which was delivered by him because he is held up in a meeting. Anytime he may join for us in the discussion, we welcome him, sir. So now we move on to the second talk by our speaker, Dr. Venkata L. Narasimha, to deliver his talk, The Tobacco Use in Children and Adolescents, Addiction and Treatment. Over to you, Dr. Venkata Lakshmi.
Thank you, sir. Is my voice audible, sir?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. So I'll share the screen, sir. Is my screen visible, sir?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So once again, thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity to talk among a lot of you. So I have three simple objectives. I think I was of the opinion that I had 15 minutes of time. So I will keep it simple so that this can generate some discussion in terms of these three aspects, so that I will be able to answer these questions further if you have any questions regarding these things. So my objectives are to talk about the substance use and addiction among children, which is the theme for this year. Pharmacological management, I will also touch upon the management in children, and I will also talk about the brief interventions. So tobacco industry not only interferes with at the level of schools, but it also interferes at the level of medical professionals also. So this is an important disclosure that I would like to give, that I have no association with tobacco industry or pharma industry. And I was a part of an intellectual contribution to a survey on tobacco cessation centers in Bangalore, funded by CIPLA, but no financial commitments were involved. So the theme for this year is protecting children from tobacco industry interference. So I'll be covering that in the next slide. So many of my colleagues, friends, and a lot of even doctors who work with me do ask why people get addicted to substances, why children get addicted to substances. Are people who are using substances are bad people? So there are a lot of questions. So one simple explanation, or the complex explanation made a bit more simplified, is depicted in this slide. So if you see the risk of addiction, it is about the factors which are denoted in the numerator divided by the factors that are denoted in the denominator. If the factors in the numerator are higher compared to denominator, then the chances of children or even adolescent or young adult starting substances, using substances and becoming addicted to these substances are high. So let's see one by one. One is the genetic factors. For example, if you have a family history of addiction, then the risk of you using the substance or you becoming dependent is higher. For children particularly, if there is a history of childhood trauma, in case of children, if there is any violence, physical abuse, sexual abuse, then the risk is high. Family modeling, if parents are using substances, the chances also become high. The most important is availability. Why there is a difference in terms of substance use patterns across the country? One of the main factor is availability. If there is an easy availability of substance, then the chances are high. For example, you can see that in the case of e-cigarette dependence, also in the case of heroin, where heroin dependence is more in the northern part of the India compared to southern part of India. But in southern part of India, there is pharmaceutical opioid use. Also in terms of the drug use culture, if the number of friends that you have are people who use these substances more compared to, or people who normalize usage of these substances, then the risk is high. People who have comorbid depression, anxiety are also at risk. Another important thing is, if people try substances very early, that is less than 25 years, as early as adolescence and as late as 25 years. So if people try substances early, then also they are at risk. And the risk reduces after 25 years. It doesn't mean that people should try, but people who try substances less than 25 years are at higher risk. The most important point, apart from the genetic and immediate environmental factors, is the tobacco industry and alcohol industry also try to influence us through various means. Earlier, it used to be direct advertisement. Over a period of time, they shifted to indirect advertisement. Now they are advertising through social media. So social media is not regulated. So most children, adolescents are using social media. So social media is one of the ways in which tobacco and alcohol industry try to normalize drug use, both drug use. For example, tobacco industry gives money to Instagram influencers to promote tobacco. They pay a lot of money to the influencers to promote e-cigarettes. So this is one of the ways in which tobacco industry tries to influence children. Then there is a lot of research that comes from NIMANS in terms of poor nutrition, toxic pollutants in environment. These are two factors which can lead children to develop externalizing behaviors, not only in terms of substance use, various other mental health problems also happen because of these two conditions. So what are the main protective factors? Supportive parenting. If at the level of home, if the parenting is supportive, healthy schools which are able to identify, recognize problematic behaviors, able to support, have good regulated environment where drug use, exposure to substance use is restricted. These are some protective factors. Apart from that, one of the most important factors is having adequate life skills in terms of teaching adolescents life skills like negotiation skills, decision making, planning, assertiveness skills. So these are some of the factors. So if the above factors are high and below factors are low, that puts people at the risk of various addictions, not just substance use disorders, but also other addictive disorders. So this is to my first point that I thought I will highlight the importance of substance use among children and adolescents. Second point is in terms of people who are already using substances. So why should we treat? If you see the GATS2, many of us think that no, these people don't want to stop. If you see GATS2, more than 50% of the people, both smokers and smokeless, have at some point of time or currently are thinking or planning to quit. And most of them have actually made attempts, but when they try on their own, 33% were able to be abstinent for 2 days. Only 3 to 5% were abstinent for 1 year. So this actually draws attention that most of these people need help to quit substances. So what kind of help is available? Before we go on to what kind of help is available, first thing is we need to understand why it becomes difficult for people to quit. So this might be something very simple, but this is one of the most common and difficult things. One is in terms of withdrawal symptoms. When people continuously use these substances, as soon as they try to stop, they start having some withdrawal symptoms, especially for tobacco. There are variety of withdrawal symptoms like irritability, anger, anxiety, restlessness, sleep disturbances. Specifically in women, they complain of increased appetite and weight gain, which is one of the concerning factor for them. Adolescents, they report of difficulty focusing, and these symptoms can start as early as 6 hours to up to 3 weeks. The other important problem is craving. So craving can be in various situations. It can be during the period of withdrawal, they get irresistible urge to take these substances. Then it can be at the level of when they are stressed out. Then also they remember that tobacco is something that helped them in the past. So that's why they wanted to go back and the craving sets in. Then cue induced, as soon as they stop after a week or so, then people, their friends come and call them. So these are some of the factors that need attention when people are trying to quit. And this craving can last as long as for months, maybe 3 months or 4 months. So what are the various options that are available? All of you know that there is something called as nicotine replacement therapy in the form of patches, lozenges, gums. And these patches, I just try to summarize all the dosing regimens. So which is most smoothest thing for people to stop is nicotine patches, which they can apply on their back or on their shoulder. And the dosing is like this. If it is less than 20 cigarettes, it's 14 mg per day, and more than 20 cigarettes, it is 21 mg per day. And there are lozenges and gums. Again, the same formula, less than 20 cigarettes, 2 mg nicotine gum, 1 to 2 hours, or 2 mg nicotine lozenges every 1 to 2 hours. People can use maximum of 20 per day, 20 lozenges or gums. And if it is more than 20 cigarettes, it's around 4 mg per day, again 1 to 2 hours. In between there were strips. I don't think at this point of time there is availability of strips. And most useful method was a combination NRT, where the evidence also points out towards the combination NRT, where people wear this patch. On the top of this patch, whenever they get craving, they use either this gum or lozenges. So generally here at NIMANS also we prescribe something called as combination NRT. There are multiple reasons why people still find it difficult to stop when they are using NRT. One is unrealistic expectations that people try to use 1 or 2 gums and feel that it is not helping. Second is incorrect usage. They use they don't know how to park and chew method. So they chew and they start having hiccups, then they stop. And not used for enough. For example, people use for 1 week or 2 weeks and they think that we have overcome it and they try to stop. So that is also one more problem. Most people think that, okay, this is a nicotine, what we are smoking is nicotine. And so again, we are taking a dangerous element. So they tend to not use it. And they have their own myths about it. So that is also one more concern. Safety concerns can also be barrier. People, there are also anecdotal reports which has been highlighted significantly that children has used these nicotine gums and then they had some toxicity. These are also some of the concerns which makes people feel worried before they start this nicotine replacement therapy. But again, as per the evidence that is available, NRT is one of the most evidence-based methods. Apart from nicotine replacement therapy, there is also varenicline and bupropion. These are 2 FDA-approved agents. There are other agents, nortriptyline, which is commonly used for peripheral neuropathy and as an antidepressant. It also helps in, it has also found its evidence in for nicotine dependence. And cytisine, although it's not available in India, but still it's a plant alkaloid and it has also been found to be useful. And the most debated thing is e-cigarettes. I have a slide on it. I will let you know about that e-cigarettes. Again, for just for information purposes, varenicline, it starts at 0.5 mg for 3 days, then 1 mg, which is 0.5 mg BD for 7 days, 4 to 7 days, and 1 mg BD. The current problem is because there were some nitrosamines that are available, that were found in this batch of varenicline. For last 3 years, there is a break in the supply chain. Hopefully, we are expecting varenicline to be back in market maybe in another 6 months. In terms of evidence, NRT, combination NRT is as good as varenicline. Coming to bupropion, again, the dosing is 150 mg once daily for 6 days. Afterwards, it is 110. Again, bupropion also has very good evidence after varenicline and combination NRT. There are some side effects with bupropion. It can cause sleep disturbances. It can reduce appetite. These are 2 common side effects. And cytisine, although it's not available in India, it is available in some parts of northern India, which people export from other countries. But at least in southern India, it is not available. It is a 25 days dosing regimen. Coming to the most debated thing about e-cigarette, although it is banned in India under PECA Act, but the patients that come to us also do report that they have been using these e-cigarettes. Again, the controversy regarding e-cigarettes is, if you see the latest Cochrane data, it shows that it has a high certainty of evidence that e-cigarettes helps in quitting smoking compared to NRT. So this risk ratio is 1.59 is compared to NRT, not compared to placebo. So it has a very good evidence. But the caution here is that there is a lot of hue and cry that most of these studies are funded by tobacco companies. But again, scientific literature also suggests that there is a recent RCT which is published in NEJM as early as April. So there is if something gets into a publication to NEJM, I don't know whether it is supported by tobacco industry. So there is a lot of controversy. So we also looked into certain aspects of how doctors are actually treating and what is the availability of services in Bangalore, specifically the tobacco cessation centers. In Bangalore, the number of tobacco cessation centers are very less, and rest of the country, it is even more less. And we also looked into the practices and attitudes of doctors with patients with substance use disorders. although people ask about these substance use disorders, when it comes to treatment, many of the doctors, at least 18 to 90% of the doctors, do not intervene. So this is something that we have studied in our center. And as you know that brief interventions are, there is a good amount of evidence for delivering brief interventions. As simple as 3 minutes of brief interventions can help people to quit. The quit rates are around 30 to 40% if the doctor delivers the brief interventions. These are 5 ways. It takes 3 to 5 minutes. Even if the nurse associated with doctor delivers this, the evidence suggests that it is good. Ask all your patients about substance use, about tobacco use, advise strong and clear that it is important to quit, assess the motivation whether the person wanted to quit, assist in the process, give nicotine gums or provide brief counseling that what are the advantages of stopping, and arrange for a follow-up. Every time they come, please do ask about using tobacco or not. And many doctors do come back, do ask us that although we advise them, they find it difficult to stop. Again, this is also true for other medical conditions like diabetes. When we advise them to walk or take care of their nutrition, people find it difficult, but it is also, so that's why this 5 hours. So every time they come, insist on the relevance of quitting. Tell them about the risk associated with continuation of use and rewards associated with stopping, and roadblocks in quitting. What are the different roadblocks that they are encountering? For example, I have told about withdrawal symptoms. I have also told about craving. So assist them in giving appropriate medicine. Repetition of the same. If even the person is not stopping, repeat the same thing in every visit. So this is my final slide. So as I told that there are effective treatments that are available in reducing the relapses, increasing abstinence rate, and increasing the quit rate. Brief intervention significantly increase the quit rate. So there are 2 important things that I would like to highlight at the end. One is if there are, if you feel that providing counseling might be a difficult thing, National Tobacco Quit Line Services, which one of the center is in Nimans, provide excellent services who are trained under us. So that is one. Second thing is you can also advise your nursing staff or even the medical officers or yourself if you wanted to undergo a course in tobacco cessation. There is a primer on tobacco cessation, which is an e-learning course, which is available at Nimans website. So this is from my end. I hope I have not exceeded the time limit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Over to Dr. Murali Mohan, sir, for your further proceedings.
Thank you so much, Professor Biradar, and thank you to both our speakers. I hope Dr. Rajkumar will be able to join us. The speakers have already been introduced, the panelists have been introduced, so I'll launch straight into the questions. Dr. Narasimha, thank you. That was a brilliant talk. But I'm going to start with you. You spoke about the 5 A's and the 5 R's. There's also the 5 D's, which I'm going to ask you about later. But do the 5 A's and 5 R's actually, are they relevant to children and adolescents as much as in adults?
I think the 5 A's and 5 R's are more relevant for adults, and the most evidence comes for adults. Generally, even among children, the people who seek treatment is significantly low. These are people, for example, most of the patients that we see at our center is people who have been brought from CWC, Child Welfare Committee. So people who come from people who are in conflict with law. So those are the children whom we see, but generally parents don't bring their children that they have been using tobacco. But parents, when they find using cannabis or other drugs, then they come. So at least in terms of evidence, 5 A's and 5 R's, although there are some research from the pediatric centers in developed countries, especially when they are brought to primary care centers, but not as much as the evidence that is available for the adults. Also, I think I forgot one more point that I would like to add is, in terms of the pharmacological interventions also, only NRT is something that can be prescribed for adolescents, particularly more than 12 years. And the other option is bupropion. All the others, for example, varenicline, e-cigarettes, all these things don't have evidence for prescription less than 18 years. So that is another thing I think I forgot to tell about. So these are 2 points I would like to add.
Thank you so much. The children you'll see, do they have more of smoking tobacco or smokeless tobacco?
Most people who come with conflict with law are people who use both smoking tobacco and smokeless tobacco. Predominantly, it is smoking, and the smokeless part is also proportionately high, but not as like in adults.
Because generally the image issue of smoking being cool is more likely to be effective, when they're using it for image. However, smokeless tobacco, I think, probably indicates a greater degree of, somebody who's already used and wants to continue using it. I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to welcome our other panelist, Dr. Govind Babu, a good friend of mine. We did our MD together, and a distinguished medical oncologist, my go-to person very often. And Dr. Suresh Sagarad, of course, a distinguished cardiologist from Raichur. And we know the health impacts of these. And Dr. D.P. Singh, physician and pulmonologist. So welcome all of you. I'm going to start with Dr. D.P. Singh. Dr. Singh, what do you think are the most important health effects of tobacco, both in the adult, because that's the bigger part of our population, and of course, as Dr. Narasimha has told us, very often the image of a smoker comes from the parents and other seniors who have a huge influence. So these are people who decide whether a child thinks it's cool, who start smoking. Inevitably, I've found that, not inevitably, but very often I find that when the parent is a smoker, especially the father is a smoker, the child is more likely to start smoking and start smoking at an earlier age. So going back to you, Dr. Singh, what do you think is the health impact, and how do you tackle it when a father comes to you who's a smoker, and very often the children aren't told?
Kindly unmute, DP Singh.
Thank you, Dr. Murali Mohanji. This is a very good question. So in one of the study, when I asked the children that why you smoke, so 1/3 of the children say that because my parents are smoking, so I smoke. So they follow the footprints of their parents. That's very important. Another group of children, they say, because my friends are smoking, so I am smoking. And the third group of children say that, yes, because whenever I grow and I feel that if people will say, oh, you are children. So just to feel big, I smoke. So when I smoke, I feel that I have grown up, I become more intelligent, I am different from the other people who do not smoke because they are shy of smoking, they are not addicted. So this is the feeling of feeling big, feeling different, feeling mature, feeling grown up. And that's one-third of the children, that's it. And these are the very vulnerable people, and child is the father of the man. That is William Wordsworth said. So whatever we teach our children, whatever we give, that we say that suppose a obese physician say to their parents that you reduce your weight, that will not be a big impact to the patients also. So if it's doctors smoke, and if you advise your patient that don't smoke and quit smoking, that will not give the impact that you want to get the desired results. So especially when the parents say that my children are smoking and they will go on smoking, so there is definitely that will fail. So first of all, parents must set example that I should not smoke, and because there are very important and very bad impacts of this smoking. Similarly, we physicians, just like Dr. Muruganathan sir was telling about that, we physicians or we IME people should go to the school-going children, and there we should teach as doctors that yes, this is the vulnerable group, and if you smoke, how your lung will be damaged, how the coronary artery disease, that one of the biggest epidemic of the world, that will affect you, the cancer deaths, and so many things, the bad impacts of this smoking. We have to narrate to the children that this behavioral changes. So this is our duty as API men or IME men to go to the school, especially this +2 children, because they are very vulnerable to get addiction. And nowadays, even what we see in Bihar scenario, after this banning of alcohol, these people are going more of addictions of other some drugs, even this school going children. So that is not only the celebrating the No Tobacco Day, but also to go to the people. Also this what we say, the people's awareness program, that is the purpose of this No Tobacco Day. And then when we say about the impacts, our cardiologist friend and oncologist friend will tell about that. As a respiratory man, the most of this important is that this COPD, this damaging the cilia, the inflammation in the airways, inflammation, the damage to the alveoli, and giving rise to emphysema, and this COPD or this pink puffer, not say this blue bloater syndromes, etc. And that is a very important cause. Second to this coronary artery disease, COPD became the non-communicable disease, and lot of death occurs even in Bihar, UP, and even across the country. And this because of incidence of this growing BD, this what we say, these cigarettes, and even this biomass gas in our rural area. That's very important, although this is not the day, but still that also very important in the rural area, the biogas mass burning. And still, despite the Narendra Modi ji saying that gas that will be available in all the homes, still many poor people, they use this biogas mass. That's a very important thing. And this COPD is again important. The lung cancer again, you say this coming to the third most positions in the mortality in India, that this is very important. Second, that there are many patients where they are smokers and they have got they have not got COPD. So there are certain ILD, smoke-related ILD are there. That's although rare, especially this is specific cause of this respiratory bronchiolitis-related ILD, or this discomative interstitial pneumonia, or this pulmonary, this Langerhans histiocytosis, PLCH. These are the three. This especially that only smokers will get this. This is the important cause of that, and the diagnosis of HRCT. That's very easy now. And even the IPF, which is the common cause of this ILD, that will be also caused by strong association, although not the causative association that is there. And the lung cancer, you know, this 85 to 95% of the people, those who are a smoker, only then will get it. Although there are not all smokers will get COPD, not all smokers will get lung cancer, but because there are certain this epigenetics and a lot of things are involved in the oncogenicity, and that is the impact in the respiratory version.
Thank you, sir. That was very comprehensive, but you ended with lung cancer. So I'm going to go to Dr. Govind Babu. Govind, what are the ill effects of tobacco as far as an oncologist goes? And can you highlight any differences between smoking and smokeless tobacco?
Yeah. So, you know, we actually did a survey when I was in Kidwai many years ago as to finding out why people use tobacco, be it smokeless or smoking. And one of the curious things that came out was especially in the laborer class, they use tobacco because it suppresses hunger. They have no money to eat, so they're using this to suppress hunger. It's a very sad part. Whereas in the affluent society, they use it to suppress appetite because they want to stay slim. So these are two different things that we see. Of course, we always talk about lung cancer being the most common, the etiology being the tobacco smoke. Whereas for chewing tobacco, the smokeless tobacco, it's the oral cavity and rest of the head and neck cancers. So that is the difference. But many people we have found they smoke and chew as well. So the two differences is, for image, like you said earlier, they want to smoke. But in some parts, it is a taboo. So they use the smokeless tobacco because then they're not detected, but they still get the effect of the nicotine. So these are important things. The epidemiological studies now show that the lung cancer incidence in men is decreasing. And this is a SEER database from 1930 till 2010. And that clearly shows from 1990, about 2000, the incidence of lung cancer in men is decreasing, but in women it is continuing to increase. And that is directly related to the increased use of tobacco in women. So that is the sad part. In children,
Can I interrupt you there, Govind?
yeah, sure.
Now, is this statistic relevant to India also? Is the
Yes,
incidence of lung
yes,
cancer
yes,
coming down
yes.
in men in India?
It's not coming down in men in India because men continue to smoke here. But in women, it is increasing because more and more women are taking up smoking in India. It's a sad thing. So, in fact, this is very common in the affluent society, in the IT industry especially. So, I think Dr. Muruganathan was talking earlier. So, we have a set of talk called Cancer a Lifestyle Disease. And we talk to the IT people, we talk to school children, talking about smoking, obesity, everything to talk about generally how we can take care of chronic diseases. And we know today cancer is because of several of these factors: smoking, obesity, sedentary lifestyle. So we do that. And again, I think it was already mentioned that children take up smoking when their parents are smoking because they have an easy access to it and the parents can't tell them not to smoke. So we talk to them because we talk to these people who already are smokers and tell them that it's going to be a bad influence in your children. The secondary smoke, the tertiary smoke, all those things. But we have found that very small kids, as young as 7 to 8 years, smoking because the parents send them to get cigarettes from the shops. So this is the problem that we face.
And of course, the effects of secondhand and third-hand smoke on children are
Yes.
far worse than on adults.
Exactly. Because they're exposed to it for so many long years.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Dr. Suresh Sagarad and then I'll come back to ask Dr. Narasimha to comment on a couple of these. Dr. Sagarad, what are the cardiac effects of tobacco use? And again, the same thing I asked Dr. Govind Babu, is smoking the same, does it have the same effect as smokeless tobacco as far as the heart goes?
Yes, definitely, Dr. Murali Mohan. Many things have been already discussed by co-panelists regarding the ill effects of tobacco on pulmonary and other systems. And the most important cause of mortality worldwide is now cardiovascular disease, as we all know. And among the intra study, which showed that 9 major risk factors which contribute to 90% of the mortality in attributable to CVD is, we all know. Among 9, one of the most preventable, the risk factor is tobacco consumption. So I think that it's a very high time we all take up this issue very seriously. If you come to tobacco and cardiovascular disease, what are the association and how it leads? We all know that the tobacco has, more than 7,000 chemicals which interact in the system, the body, and produce a lot of pathophysiological changes. And it has been linked with as a pro-inflammatory agents, many of these. And these lead to endothelial damage and endothelial dysfunction. And it has been attributed for pro-thrombotic effects also. We know that the most of the young MI which come to our casualties, many of the risk factors are not seen except tobacco consumption. Especially we have seen gutka chewers who land up in myocardial infarction at a young age. They usually have large interval myocardial infarctions and they land up with ischemic LV dysfunction later in their life. That's what we are seeing. And these tobacco products also produce lipid peroxidation, and there is an oxygen demand mismatch because of smoking in the system. So all these things lead to increased aggravation of the atherosclerosis as well as atherothrombotic events. So we see more and more myocardial infarction in the younger age group. And we have seen tobacco is related to hypertension, tobacco is related to dyslipidemia, and tobacco is related to insulin resistance and development of diabetes, which are also major risk factor for cardiovascular disease. So it's a complex interplay with not only directly affecting, but also influencing other major risk factors. That's why CVD is increasing, especially in low socioeconomic and middle socioeconomic countries nowadays, because high socioeconomic countries which experienced this burden earlier because of changing lifestyles and policy which governments and NGOs have taken place, there the burden is coming down. But we in India and Indian subcontinent is now the capital of diabetes, capital of CVD, because of all the risk factors which have been aggregated with us. So apart from this tobacco consumption itself, genetics also influences how the effect of tobacco is modified because of genetics is also an important factor which we need to look at it. So this is a very complex interplay, and we are having the more burden, whether it is smokeless or smoke with smoke. I think the cause and effect is same.
Yeah, I think both our panelists made this point that smokeless tobacco is socially more acceptable. I've had, for example, women patients. I was talking to her and talking about one of their relations who husband and a wife decided to quit smoking together and were successful. And I was hinting to her that she and her son could quit together. And her comment was, look at the girls in our community. They've all started smoking. And while she was talking to me, she had a tobacco quid in her cheek. So tobacco is socially acceptable still in large parts of our country. And that's the tragedy. But moving on, a couple of points that Dr. Singh had made earlier. He spoke about targeting +2 children when you go to schools. So I'm going to Dr. Narasimha, because that ties in with something Dr. Govind Babu said. He says, we see children as young as 7 or 8 coming to us who are using tobacco. So do you think we should start earlier? Is it too late to target the +2 group? Of course, we should target everybody, but should we start even earlier is my question.
Sir, I think the evidence for targeting children directly, going and giving public lectures to children that if you smoke tobacco, this is going to happen. So that kind of approach worldwide, the evidence suggests that is something that has not found to be helpful. But what has been found to be helpful, both in terms of targeting them, is in terms of teaching them something called as life skills, strengthening them psychologically, and identifying people who are vulnerable and working with those vulnerabilities. So these are some things that has been found to be helpful. Other strategy that has been found to be helpful is in terms of regulating the drug use patterns across in the schools. For example, having some, not like punishing them, but having a counselor who can talk to them in case they have been found to be using drugs or any other, even if it is tobacco or other drugs, and also having some policies in terms of related to drug use. So these are some things that has been found across the world. Even the evidence for, at least in Indian context, is also there that these strategies, focusing on life skills, focusing on drug-related policies, these are some things that help in terms of the initiation and usage of substance use, and also identifying the vulnerable population. But directly giving them direct messages in terms of these lectures, these are some things that, again, anecdotal evidences are there, but overall evidence is something that is missing. But definitely working with teachers and working with the school management and addressing them in these aspects is something that is found to be helpful.
Yeah, that's true, Dr. Narasimha, because at that young age, they may not be able to comprehend what we are telling. So mostly what we use these children is like emotional blackmail to their parents who are smokers. So we tell these children to talk to their parents and see if they can. So I feel that works better, because of that connect between the parents and children.
Yeah, we also
most of the time, can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Most of the time, this use of tobacco starts in college. As you all know, it is either at +2 level or early degree. That is where 16 to 20 is a crucial period, where most of it is because of peer pressure. It starts as a recreational thing and then it goes on to addiction. I think that is the area where we all need to focus. That 16 to 18, 20 is the most important age group.
Yeah, sure.
And don't
Absolutely.
say that the 16, the teenagers, just like a flood. So that is a flood of emotions. 13, even 13 years old boy drinking. I have seen many patients here in the clinic, 13-year-old, their addiction to drinks or alcohol. So anything, this cigarette and everything at the age of 13. So teenagers are, this is very vulnerable. It's not 16, it's a bit, even below that. And nowadays, the younger people, they becomes grown up earlier. Yes. And one or 2 points in the respiratory groups, even the smoking has got very bad effects upon the pneumonia. William Osler say the old people, the pneumonia is a very good friend. And this is a risk factors again. This is, we say, the 5th or 6th cause of the smoking causing the related diseases. And second is the India, that is the 27% of all global tuberculosis. Again, this is smoking has a very bad effects upon this tuberculosis also, even the mortality, outcomes, etc. And that also take in the points whenever we deal with the tuberculosis also. These 2 points should also be taken.
In fact, the most dreaded post-TB complications occur in those who are smokers or ex-smokers, where the obstructive element that comes in
Yes.
because of TB,
Yes.
what we call TOPD,
Yes.
is combined with the obstructive
Obstructive
airway
airway disease
of
post-tubercular.
smoking. And that
Very
combination
common.
is really horrible. So, I mean, for the benefit of the audience, I hope you all know the global burden of disease study I was fortunate to be a part of this. As Dr. Suresh Sagaraj said, the leading cause is coronary artery disease worldwide and in India, but also the second is COPD.
Sure.
And we must remember that a lot of patients with COPD also have coronary artery disease and vice versa.
Yes.
So very often the cause of death is attributed to the ischemic heart disease, coronary artery disease, and the associated COPD is often neglected. So probably both, the combination is dreadful, and COPD is actually, in spite of being the second major cause of death, is actually still underestimated. Dr. Narasimha, you wanted to say something. And by the way, please, can I request all panelists, you all are welcome to come in on any points, add to the comments made by the person whom I've asked the question to. And this applies to Dr. Sangram Biradar also. Sir, as host, please feel free to come in at any time.
Sure.
Dr. Narasimha.
One point, sir. I think this is something that we have studied during COVID, although we could not get it published. Is we looked into the smoking and COVID-19 outcomes across the Karnataka. So we have studied almost 4,000 COVID patients, and what we found that both in terms of the COVID-19 outcomes and COVID-19 related complications, both have been found to be significantly higher among people who smoke. Although because it got delayed, we could not get it published, but it was a survey across the state of Karnataka, around 4,000 COVID-19 patients. So this is one thing that I would like to add.
So
Excellent.
it's not too late to publish it because it's valuable. We are seeing COVID coming back. Even today, we have a COVID patient in the hospital. So while it's not quite as severe as it used to be, it is still a problem that we are facing. Two, as everybody keeps predicting, the next pandemic is just around the corner. And as you said, I think not only are the outcomes worse, but also the chance of getting COVID is higher. So we found the incidence of COVID is higher in those who are smoking as compared to never smokers. Govind, you were starting to say something.
Yeah, that's right. It is not just the treatment that they cannot tolerate. The side effects of the therapy that we give also is bad in smokers because they already have a basic malfunctioning lung, if you may say. Only good point is the immunotherapy seems to be working better in smokers. That is the only ray of the smokers, but that is just an observational thing that has come out.
So, and again, not wanting
to say that.
And not wanting to quit smoking, we also find that smoking, smokers with slightly lower incidence of hypersensitivity pneumonitis. But as Dr. Singh alluded to earlier, a lot of the other smoking-related ILDs, especially IPF, idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, have worse outcomes. And of course, we don't have a neurologist on this panel, But just like coronary artery
Stroke.
disease is worse, strokes are worse. And
Stroke also, yes.
with no
Correct.
disrespect to the
Correct.
cardiologist, the impact
Absolutely.
of stroke on the person's future and the family is often more devastating than that of heart disease. So that's something
Yeah.
we should not forget. I'm going to go
The
back.
other thing, Murli,
Please.
no, the other thing is most of these smokers are also users of alcohol, most of them. So that adds on to the problems. And like, for the drugs that we use, we need good end organ functions. So that is another problem that we see.
They are companion addiction. Whenever
Absolutely.
they drink,
Yeah,
they smoke.
true.
Whenever they smoke, they drink.
Yes, that's true.
I'm going to extend that question to Dr. Narasimha. You had your hand up. Please go ahead.
Sir, one more thing. When we were talking about the prevalence rates across last couple of decades, so compared to the GATS-1 that has been done in 2008 versus the GATS-2 that has been done in 2016-17, the prevalence rates of smoking and smokeless tobacco actually has come down, both in males and females. But there are pockets of areas where the female tobacco use continue to be same. But when you see the trends, the trend of smoking and smokeless both has been coming down. And that is also true for Global Youth Tobacco Survey, which again, there are two parts to it. So both phases compared to phase 1, in phase 2, it has come down. So this is something that I thought I will add.
Yeah, Dr. Narsim, I have a little problem with these surveys. I know it is there, but many of the patients who come to us for treatment, they tell us, please don't put the history of smoking in our history because our insurance will not permit. So a lot of these data are taken from these health records. So I have my doubt. But I can definitely tell you in the affluent society, in the IT business in Bangalore, the smoking has definitely gone up in the females.
Yes, sir.
No, absolutely, completely agree. I see the same.
Yeah.
Because it not only influences the other things. We're talking about asthma. Asthma is also more and more difficult to control in women, in people who smoke.
Difficult to treat asthma is.
Pardon,
Yeah.
sir?
Difficult to treat asthma. That history
Exactly.
must be taken.
Exactly. And they find it very difficult to quit despite the the dreadful effects on them.
True.
The other question I wanted to ask all of you basically is, we spoke about genetic effects. Dr. Narasimha alluded to it. Dr. Sagar alluded to it. Govind, you alluded to it. So these are the genetic effects which predispose a person to smoking and in fact all forms of addiction, and also increases their vulnerability when they have certain genetic predisposition. But what about when the parent or the grandparent smokes? What are the effects on the unborn child and the unborn female, of grandchildren? Is there any evidence of transgenerational effects of smoking in a pregnant woman who smokes? I'm going to start with Govind.
Yeah, these are all observational studies, but it's definitely shown to be there because all these molecules pass across the maternal circulation into the fetus. Definitely. They have difficult deliveries, they have preeclampsias, they have preterm deliveries and asphyxia in the kid. All these are known.
Yeah, so that is on the immediate offspring.
Right.
Interestingly, I believe that if a mother is smoking and she has a female fetus, that she's growing, the effects on the oocyte of the fetus can carry on to the next generation, both genetically and epigenetically. And this is something I constantly tell people. It's not enough if you ask a person about smoking, you have to ask the pregnant woman and tell her that she's influencing the future. And why I brought this up is, the point Dr. Narasimha made about smoking prevalence coming down in certain pockets. The point is, and Govind, you were saying that, the cancer rates are still high, very high. The effects of smoking will last another 20 years. So even if we start seeing a decline now, the health effects are going to, improvement in health effects are going to show up only 20 years down the line.
Absolutely.
Which is why the importance of catching children now and preventing them so we can save the next generation. We already have the burden of air pollution, and we're adding tobacco on top of that. This is a double whammy for our children.
Yeah. So the other thing the very important thing in lung cancer that develops between smokers and non-smokers, both, we say squamous is more common in smokers, adeno in non-smokers, but even in smokers, the adenocarcinoma is going up. But the difference is in the adenocarcinomas, we have mutations which are amenable to targeted agents, whereas in smokers, these targets are very, very few. So that is the aspect of treatment for these people.
And these targeted agents have such good outcomes now.
Yes, yes.
That- So, Dr. Narasimha, you had a point to
Yeah.
make?
So one more point, sir. When mother smokes, it not only affects the pregnancy-related outcomes, but also it affects the development of the brain in the children. What happens is there is a high, again, this is very well-established evidence that children born to mothers who smoke during the pregnancy, they have this, they are more vulnerable, or they develop externalizing disorders. So which is they have behavioral problems during their childhood, they develop ADHD, and this ADHD further increases them at the risk of developing both mental health related problems, also substance use related problems. So mother smoking not only have these pregnancy related complications, but also the children have neurodevelopmental issues. It need not be an overt neurodevelopmental issues, but they have more externalizing disorders which put them at vulnerability when they go into their teenage. So this is again, this is something very well established, especially for tobacco, alcohol, and cocaine.
Yeah, but I think the other aspect is, the lady smoking, I think she herself has a basic neurological problem. So I think that genetic part is going to the child as well, other than
Yeah,
the smoke.
it continues. It continues.
Yes, that's right.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go back to Dr. Sagarat. When a person comes to you with myocardial infarction, that is the time that they're most receptive to receiving messages. So how do you tackle this question of asking about tobacco use? Do you ask about both smoking and smokeless tobacco? And what information do you give the patient that helps them to quit tobacco? And I'm going to come to the other panelists and ask the same question, because when you first make the diagnosis and communicate it to them is when they are most willing to get the message. So, Dr. Sagarat, we'll start with you.
Yes, definitely, because when a patient comes with acute coronary syndrome, we will be checking their risk factors, and of course, smoking, tobacco consumption is one of the most important and preventable risk factors, and we will get it in the history straight away. And ACS is the one where they are hospitalized, and they will be hospital for at least 2 to 5 days. So definitely they will not be smoking during that time. And once they stop for that few days, that's with the counseling what we will be talking regarding the effect of myocardial infarction and the death and morbidity associated with it. So most of the time that is the hospitalized phase where that quitting part takes place.
I'm going to go next to
the
Dr.
first time.
Singh. Dr. Singh, there was this very interesting presentation, a paper which was presented at a conference by Dr. Zarur Udwadia, one of our leading pulmonologists, that 99% of patients who were admitted with an acute exacerbation of COPD were not asked about tobacco use and were not given counseling for quitting tobacco when they left. And these were patients who were in the ICU. Many of them were intubated, and still this question was asked. I mean, this was very honest on his part, but that struck a chord in me. And so how often, should we be asking patients before they reach the stage about tobacco use? I mean, theoretically, we are supposed to with every single patient.
Actually, when the
Now you've
patients
just
are
heard
admitted,
man or woman, you should be asked. So it doesn't matter which gender. We always hesitate to ask women. So yes, Dr. Singh, you started.
so whenever a patient is admitted in the acute exacerbation, that is not the time to ask. We have to treat it. But at the time of discharge, we must take that proper history and proper counseling, that whether you are smoking and how many cigarettes or bidi you are taking, or this patient is taking. And sometimes the intelligent patients, even I make them understand what is the Pareto curve. That if you are at the age of 25, the FEV1 is 100%, and with the age there is 1 to 2% decline of that. But if you smoke, your lifespan will be less than 70 or 65 or so. If you want to live 100 years of life, please quit this, and this quitting is any time, whether it is 35, whether it is 65, or even any day. If you quit, the effect will be very much salutary, very much beneficial, very much obvious. So that counseling is must, and we must give time to the patients, especially of the pulmonary patients or any patient at the time of discharge, that if you want to not have the exacerbation, not have the death, even that is the last outcome. So please quit it and you get the better life. So that counseling is very, very important. Yes.
Govind, you had something to say?
There was
Yeah.
one question I think they
I'm
asked.
going to come to that, Dr. Sagaran. Just give me a minute.
Murli, this was about, the anti-tobacco things that are put out on the cigarette packs. How effective do you think it is to quit tobacco's use?
I'm going
What
to
is your
respond.
perception and what is your...
Dr. Narasimha, how
Okay,
effective?
because I will give you another observation. Yeah.
Yeah, sir, I think there is good amount of research that has been done in terms of the front of the pack warnings that are there.
Correct, correct.
So when they have looked again, this evidence comes across the world that the size of the even the size of the picture that is there. So they were able to lobby with the tobacco industry that they increase the size, but they have the tobacco industry purposefully have blurred the images that are there on this thing.
Correct.
But in terms of the labeling, these have been found to be effective. Again, this comes from the research. Maybe again, there are very well designed studies across the world that have shown that these are useful. Also, in terms of the quitline number that has been printed, so most of the people who reach out to the quitline are people who access the quitline number to the pack and reaching the quitline. So that is also something that has been found to be helpful. But it is again, the proportion of people who actually use this number and call may be something that is we don't know. The answer is we don't know.
I think the important thing you mentioned,
So
Dr.
the other
Narasimha,
thing is what I have noticed in some people.
Yes, Govind, go ahead. Hello, Dr. Govind.
Yeah, people are pretty gullible. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, the people are pretty gullible. The people who are selling this have said, this is the treatment for the cancer that is there that you have. These people with huge buccal mucosa cancers, they've been told that this is the cure and they go smoking. So again, they have an advertisement of cancer. They have tobacco causes impotence. So somebody got this impotent one. He said, "Nahi, cancer ka do mujhe." So, how it gets misinterpreted is the other problem.
Absolutely, completely agree with you. This is a question that has been asked by Dr. Shruti on the question. I think it's a very important question, and I had the same thing also. But since it's specifically referred to ACS and MI, I'm going to go to Dr. Suresh Sagaran on this. She says, is it said that acute coronary syndrome, MI, is not tobacco dose dependent like carcinoma? What is your opinion on this?
Yeah, let us go back to the INTERART study, which actually looked at the cardiovascular risk factors. It showed that smoking in overall population case control study, it showed 3 times more the prevalence of coronary artery disease in those who were smoking. Especially in younger age group, they showed that it is 7 times more when compared with the non-smokers. And they showed that there is a dose response linear relationship. The number of cigarettes smoked and the duration of the smoking is correlated with the cardiovascular disease. And of course, regarding ACS, is an acute event where plaque rupture occurs. So that is the triggering factors may be variable. So there the correlation is very difficult.
Absolutely. But I'm going to extend that question to the others. Is there a dose response relationship with cancer? But more importantly, because I think that has been proven with any of these diseases, there is a dose response. But is there a safe limit for smoking? Is there a minimum amount that seems to be safe? And I think we have to wrap up in 6
Absolutely
minutes.
nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely no safe.
Yeah, so I think it's very important. There was a good paper, a meta-analysis that was done and shown that even between 1 and 10 cigarettes, there is a significant increase in the risk of all these conditions, increase in cardiovascular mortality, cancer mortality, all-cause mortality. So I think important message is there is no safe limit. There is, of course, a dose-response relationship. You smoke more heavily, you're more likely to get a problem and get more severe problems. But I think there is no safe limit. So
And
some of
Murali, more important than no safe limit is you're producing problem for the rest of the people who are not smokers.
Yes, but I mean,
As
even
is
the person is, himself is going to be
Yes.
affected, even if he smokes 1 or 2.
Exactly. Correct. Absolutely.
So that's an important message that should go across. And I think that cuts across all these conditions.
True.
Last, let us get back to the theme. Any of you, Dr. Narasimha, I will start with again. We're talking about the tobacco industry having a bad influence on children, including adolescents. How do they have this bad influence and how do we counter it?
So one of the ways currently the current tobacco industry strategy is through social networking sites like Instagram, Facebook, and
Correct.
they pay to the influencers. So the influencers who are promoting influencers across the world has been paid a lot of money to promote tobacco brands. So that is one way. Second thing is someone has posted in the chat also in terms of celebrities are also being paid. So for example, any movie is made, the amount of time, the duration of time that the celebrity smokes a cigarette in the movie is also proportional to how much the tobacco industry pays to them. So that these are the two ways in which the tobacco industry at present trying to market the tobacco products. The other way the tobacco industry is also trying to target children is through promotion in the gaming platforms. So there are some games which are developed based on tobacco related things. Also, what you call, so these are the common ways in which tobacco industry is trying. Most of these regulations are happening at a policy level. For example, India is the first country to bring in OTT regulations for tobacco related content that comes during the movie. So India is one of the first country. There is also a push towards bringing in for the social networking sites, bringing in more regulations for social networking sites. But that is something that is becoming very difficult even for the government. How do they implement it? But again, from a community level or from our level, how do we address it? There are no quick solutions for it, but at least at our level, sensitizing our own immediate network of influence about these tobacco industry tactics, especially at the medical level, not accepting from the tobacco industries for funded research. At a school level, this ITC books, so they penetrate at school level so that they for children, ITC looks like a company that is helping a lot of people and promoting farming, promoting other areas. So schools also need to understand. So we have recently done a program for around 75 schools in Bangalore, that making them understand about this conflict the tobacco industry has, particularly when it comes to children. So at our level, I think these are some things that making people understand about what kind of interference the tobacco industry can have at the level of children or also at the level of medical institutions. So these are some thoughts from my end.
Thank you. We have 2 minutes left. I can see Dr. Biradar is getting a little jittery now. So I'm going to ask each of you to leave us with one comment relevant to today's talk, because we can go on for another 2 hours. And I think,
Absolutely.
Brother, you may have to have one more session of this. So I'm going to go in reverse order. We'll start with Dr. Singh. Dr. Singh, one sentence which encapsulates your thought, the message you want to leave us with.
Just this tobacco gives us thrill, but it also kills us. So
Excellent.
no tobacco. Say no to tobacco. Yes.
Excellent. Dr. Suresh Sagarad.
Yeah, it is the single most preventable cause of cardiovascular disease. Stop it.
Thank you. Dr. Govind.
Yeah, I think, we have enough rules that are there against smoking, but implementation is a problem. I don't know how we will do that.
Yeah, so my wife is a very aggressive campaigner against tobacco. And I remember we once went to a club and they were allowing smoking there. So she made a big fuss, called the manager and insisted that he, move the people who are smoking out. And she succeeded in doing that. So I think we
Great.
all need to get more active.
Exactly.
On a personal basis, in the social media, and work with governments. We have very influential people on the panel today. We need to work with governments to strengthen their hands to tackle this menace. Dr. Narasimha, closing remarks with you.
Sir, one request is ask all patients about tobacco use, advise them. So this is something that is from my research that we have done in Bangalore. Although many ask, but they don't intervene, they don't refer, they don't treat. So ask, advise, and refer to treatment. So this is my request for in this
Very
channel.
true. Very true, Dr.
Before we stop, I'm going to ask you to amplify that comment. Is there a difference between, you spoke about the brief intervention, but how does a formal program through a tobacco cessation clinic, what impact does it have which is greater than the brief intervention?
Sorry. Again, so for people, brief intervention is at the level of the when there is no tobacco cessation center that is not available. Brief interventions again has been found to be as effective as in-person detailed intervention in certain contexts. Tobacco cessation center, it makes an opportunity that all people get tobacco cessation services when they have tobacco related problems. And there is also some evidence that as you increase the duration of time in which you deliver the interventions, the chance of quitting also increases. So these are thoughts that come suddenly for this question, sir.
Yeah, but I think my experience is that definitely quit rates improve when we have a team which involves a tobacco cessation clinic, combines counseling with pharmacotherapy, with nicotine replacement therapy. So I think it's very important that we take the benefit of the TCCs where they are available. Thank you all. You all have been a brilliant panel, Dr. Suresh, Dr. Singh, Dr. Govind Babu, Dr. Narasimha. And I will hand back to Dr. Sangram Biradar.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful moderation by you as usual. And all the panelists did a wonderful job. Now I request Dr. Vishwanath to propose the vote of thanks. Dr. Vishwanath. I think Dr. Vishwanath is not able to get connected, sir.
Yeah, I think he's muted.
No, he's not muted.
He's not able to connect.
He's not able to connect. Okay, sorry. Sir, you
can wind up, sir.
Yeah, so a very special thanks to all the people who attended. There's a large group here. We wish it would be much larger. I see a good mixture of physicians, pulmonologists, cardiologists on this group. And this is important because tobacco affects every single tissue in the body. It affects the person who's smoking. It affects the environment. It affects the non-smoker who's around the smoker. It affects their families, health-wise, psychologically, economically. And so that's probably the single most harmful substance in the world today. And I'm glad we had this topic. A very special thanks to Dr. Sangram Biradar for organizing this. Special thanks to all our speakers and panelists. We missed Dr. Rajkumar, who's an authority in this area. Special thanks to the supporting team that is behind us. And we hope that we can continue this discussion in the future also and make sure that our children are not exposed to the effects of industry and the effects of industry, tobacco industry in particular, to which guards their lives, their health in the future and guards the safety of this country also. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, one and all. We'll sign off. Thank you.